Hi, good afternoon, class. My name is Christopher King. Although some of you may know, just because I found that we tend to sort of run in cohorts where we sort of run into the same individuals in different classes that we have, and so we see the same names and we become more and more familiar. So some of you may know my name already, but it's nice to potentially work with all of you in any case. So my first year field placement was completed with a mental health agency. My most recent title was actually a worksite placement with that mental health agency where I was with their IOP, which is an intensive outpatient program for most of the week. And then in my downtime, I would go over to another office just because they have to be separated by location and scope of responsibility, where I was doing intake and assessment. Before that, which is what I have the most experience in, is I was an insurance adjuster. So that's kind of a big change in my career, but I got my bachelor's degree in psychology, and I knew I always wanted to pursue a career in social services, and this is my introduction to this industry, and it has been enlightening to say the least. My experience in working with older adults in this year's field placement, which is my second field placement, in which I work in a hospice agency, has been much more involved as far as working with this population, that is older adults. In the mental health agency, I would say that some of our clients were older adults, but a majority of them certainly were not. In the hospice environment, you'll find that while maybe not a majority, and maybe it's not in line with, I guess, the stereotype of hospice, but in reality, a lot of the clients and patients that you deal with are older adults. And so I've gotten a lot of experience in working with said older adults in this particular field placement. Um, my experience in working with older adults in this particular field placement has been um, eye-opening, I would say, just because there is a spectrum of, I want to say, responsiveness, for lack of a better term, that you will find in working with older adults in a hospice environment, where you'll find some of your clients are completely responsive. They're able to engage in full conversations with you. And then in dealing with the members of the family of the patient, or those who have recently lost a loved one, we have things like individual therapy and bereavement support groups, where there's certainly a full-on conversation that you're engaging in with these older adults and these individuals. But you'll also have on the other end, where you go into facilities and you're making visits with certain patients who are suffering from Alzheimer's or other forms of dementia, where they are either completely non-responsive, and you are just there to sort of check in on them, to assess any needs that they have, and to spend some time with them, maybe completing activities. And others are what we call pleasantly confused, where you can have a conversation with them, but it's not your traditional conversation that has a start and an end. They may be confused regarding subject matter. They may not be able to stay on subject. And so I would say that it's opened my eyes up to a spectrum of what you will find in working in this population. I think that's a good thing, especially before I start obtaining my experience in working with this population, which I hope to do even at the very beginning of my career in the social service industry. On a personal level, I like to say that I have always demonstrated the ability, apparently, per my mother and other members of my family, to rapidly develop rapport with older adults. I don't know if it is my Southern upbringing, where I was taught to have a large amount of respect for my elders, regardless of how they interact with me, whether or not it's my positive personality, whether or not it's evident that I am sort of soaking in through osmosis the wisdom that they are able to give me. I don't know what it is, but I've always been able to develop rapport rapidly with older adults. And when I haven't, it's the exception and not the rule in terms of me and my relationships. So I knew by extension that I would want to work with them in my career, given that there is a severe shortage of practitioners in all gamuts of the medical industry, including the social services industry and the parts that overlap, where you don't have enough doctors. For older adults, gerontology is not at the top of the list for most individuals in medical school. And I guess the same could be said in the social services industry, where you don't have enough practitioners willing to work with that population or dedicate, their careers to working with that population. And it's only going to get worse, apparently, given that the baby boomer generation is aging into the older adult population category, and then behind them is only just a wider spectrum of people that will be aging into that particular category. And so I think the statistic, and look at me quoting wrong statistics already, that's a nice start. But I think the statistic is within the next 10 years, that population is going to double at the least and triple at the most. And so I think that we will see a demonstrated need for more individuals who are willing to work with this particular population. And so I want to be a part of those individuals. Any burning questions that I have about work with this particular population that I hope to be answered in this course? I guess my burning question would be how to obtain experience in working with this population outside of the hospice environment, whether or not there are certain agencies or types of agencies that you can sort of aim for as far as getting jobs with, to obtain that experience that you would need in order to develop the repertoire and expertise that's required to effectively work with this population throughout your career. So I hope to have those questions answered, and I'm sure that they will. And I'm looking forward to working with and joining in on discussions with all of you. And thank you for listening to my ramblings. And as I always say, good luck with this course and the rest of your courses. Thank you.